Hi, Tati. How's it going?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you doing, Charles?
Good. Such a pleasure to speak with you about this podcast, about Aftershock, because you have such a distinctive voice. You have an amazing, amazing voice.
Thank
And
you.
I've been aware of sort of how you've chosen to modulate it in different projects, to present very differently. And this one in particular is no exception, because you're playing a teenager and you're probably
Right.
choosing to present a little bit differently. So
Mhm.
what consideration do you give to voice and to voice recording for this particular podcast?
Well, in general, like I always like to make each of my characters have a full identity. So more than just the physical embodiment as I would do on screen, even more so with podcasts and with voiceover work, you have all of that embodiment has to be into the voice. And so for me, like I was like, she's a 16-year-old girl. I am not 16. And so I was like, how do I tone my voice or age my voice down without, I guess, making it too high or sounding like a child, like a small child, and sort of just adding in that that angsty sort of sass that teenagers can have at times,
Mm-hmm.
or the sort of cadence, or not necessarily slang, but yeah, just cadence and rhythm to the way that I hear teenagers speak now. Yeah.
This must have been an incredible project too, because, reading about how you had come to it, that Sarah,
Mhm.
basically was casting herself practically through a phone, and that you happened to have the same agent, and that your
Mhm.
agent came to you and said, maybe take a look at this project. Have you ever done anything like this that didn't sort of involve a casting agent or auditioning?
I mean, that was the first time, no, that I had gone through something like that, that I was like, okay, awesome. And for me, the appeal was like, okay, this is clearly a passion project. This is clearly something that that Sarah, wanted to do and put together and tried to wrangle it up. And I was like, that of course I want to be a part of that. Like, of course I want to be a part, like I came from theater. And so it's the art part of it and the creative part of it is always very important to me. So anytime that I get the chance to do a passion project or somebody's like, hey, you want to join in on this, I'm like, yeah, like let's create together, let's make something. So it was trippy to come through that way, but it was, I don't know, I kind of really loved it. Yeah.
What was it like to, record some of your scenes? I heard in a closet, even with a
Yes.
blanket over you, and then some of them while you were, doing something else in Germany, of all
Mhm.
things.
Mhm. Yeah, it was, I honestly really loved this recording process. Like I've done other voiceover work before, but there's something very really special about this, the fact that it was really guerrilla style recording. And like even though I was in a closet and in like very tight cramped quarters, like Sarah's directing and the ensemble that we created with the people that I was able to actually record with, it never felt it never felt awkward, or it never felt uncomfortable, or it never felt like, yeah, it was never a disruption. I will say, like, if anything, it only added to it, to that passion, and to that, like, okay, we're gonna get this done, we're gonna do it, and by any means necessary. And Sarah just really helped create a world so that both in the script itself as well as with her directing, and helped you, that it didn't matter what environment you were in. At least for me, I can say that it didn't matter what environment I was in. She really set the tone and sort of set the bar.
Sarah talks a lot about, breaking the rules of a scripted podcast, or, the Wild West, how it's sort of, we're exploring the content in different ways. I don't want to draw too much of a parallel, but, coming off of Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, I feel like that show really, by the time you got to part 3, it was almost like I'd never seen a show that was really challenging the medium in that way, that it was scripted, but it was so open. Do you find that maybe there's a similarity there, or are you attracted to projects in which it does feel like you're breaking the mold a little bit?
Absolutely. I think that is, I mean, what else is art for? Like, art is to progress us as a society, as a species. Like, it we should be breaking the mold every time we make a new piece of art. That's where we started from it with. So yeah, I'm very much drawn to things that don't go the conventional way and are trying to, yeah, make a new, but like pioneer, show us a new way that we can do things, as well as being more and more honest with where we're at, which I think Sarah did an amazing job of. Like, that there were certain things that she very much didn't shy away from, like the idea of like race and colonialism, like this beautiful like pseudo mother-daughter relationship that was born out of tragedy from Michaela's standpoint, love from Cassie's standpoint, but that this, yeah, the truth of that this happens, like, you know, like people, it, I guess in the same way people go off the beaten path, so it's like to be able to reflect that, I think is important, in order for us to depict life as truly as we can.
And there is that slow reveal, which I think is so wonderful. You know, you don't come on until like the third episode, and we think that there is that sort of mother-daughter relationship. We're exploring it. You know, it's full of unreliable narrators to an extent. So, you know, how much do you choose to reveal? You know, do you feel like when you're in voice recording, do you feel like you have to be completely honest the entire time? Do you hold back at times?
Well, I mean, I think in my case, particularly with this project, I think I had to be completely honest. I mean, with especially like with Michaela, like, I mean, and this is what I loved about being 16 too, is this complete abandonment of censorship and forethought, on a lot of things. And so I think in order to play Michaela as truly as I could, I had to be the most honest. And you know, when Michaela comes in episode 3, she is what shatters the glass and is like, whoa, hey guys, what stories have you been telling up to this point? Like, no, she's not my mom. You got like, and which then causes Cassie and Wayne to break off into a whole nother conversation. And so, yeah, honesty is, I think, is important too in general with voiceover, because all you have is your voice, in the same way that you can almost hear when someone's lying when they're talking to you, because you don't have your face to support you. You have to make this as honest as you can. Yeah.
It's maybe a coincidence or by design that you tend to be attracted to a lot of these projects that sort of involve, you know, tearing down the old way and building up a new way, or, you know, approaching sort of the end time a little bit. You know, I could see it in the 100 and just Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, certainly in this one, you know, and it was devised pre-pandemic, but just happens to have a lot of those themes that are so relevant right now.
You know, it's funny, like, I mean, I don't believe in coincidence. I think that everything happens for a reason. And since I was a kid, I always had this idea of a utopian world. Not utopian in the sense of everything's so happy and so go lucky and there's no conflict, because I think that conflict is important in order to grow. So, and I think that part in particular is why I always get attracted to these sort of projects of like, okay, yes, you know, we've started in a certain turmoil or a certain tragedy or whatever the case may be, but all of these, projects point to, okay, how do we find that utopia? How do we find that place of happiness amidst the conflict? Because the conflict will always be there. Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, you've actually just brought that to my attention, because that's something I hadn't even really like seen the pattern of before. But I think that's exactly why, is that's where my mindset lies, is how do we grow? How do we be better? And all 3 of those projects, sort of, that is the main thing. How do we be better?
I don't want to get into it too early, but I happen to have the new season of You already. I've watched that. It's I don't think it's even been announced yet of when it's coming out, but I've watched your work in that too. and
Thank
you
you.
present very differently again and have a very, very different look, different angle. What was that experience like for you?
It was amazing. It was honestly just at first just really awesome to step out of the sort of fantasy sci-fi world for a minute and
Mm,
become a little bit more grounded. Um, yeah, I had a great time with that cast. Like I love the way particularly that Sarah Gamble, our showrunner, she is just such a champion of a woman. She's has such a vision and such like she knows exactly where she wants things to go, but she's also so open and so like willing to converse and willing to even debate at times on certain things. So yeah, I really enjoyed it. I'm trying to like not say too
yeah.
much so that I don't give anything away, but I loved working on that project. Like I'm very proud of what I got to do there.
So
Yeah.
I'll take it a little bit back to this one, that, you know, you were talking about how that you fell down the rabbit hole a little bit for scripted podcasts. Certainly being involved with this one, that your friend Chance Perdomo was in one as
Mm.
well too. Are you finding that that's something that's really sort of keeping you entertained right now? And I was curious as well, sort of what other shows have been really meaningful to you at this time?
Okay, yeah, like yeah, no, I've loved scripted podcasts now. Like it on every car ride or on my way to work or like anytime I'm in transit by myself, that's all I listen to. Um, let's see, most recently I started listening to From Now by Q Code.
Mm,
I've also listened to Blackout, which was really meaningful for me. Like again, this idea of unity and what happens at the end of the world, or what happens when a crisis happens. How will humans come together when time is most needed? Um, uh, the cipher that Chance did
yeah.
was a big favorite of mine, and I've always really loved the idea of there being another species out there somewhere in the universe.
Mm,
Like I don't think that we're alone as humans. Um, so I think that that's very meaningful to expand the realm of thought that we think in, and to not think so selfishly at times.
mm,
Um, yeah, those have been I think a few. And oh, there's this one that's really hilarious that I just really love on Q Code called Unwanted,
mm.
with Billy Magnuson and Lamorne Morris. Uh, yeah, those are just a few. I've done so many at this point. I could, and of course I've listened to Aftershock. So
Mhm.
yeah, like I it's become a hobby of mine. Yeah.
Mm. I tend to notice as well that you're very attracted to female-driven, female-led projects. This one in particular, and
Mhm.
then also that, you know, Sarah's doing work as writer, as director, so many things come into it. I don't know if it's too early at this point, but I imagine for you too that you probably have a future in mind in which you're taking on different roles, that you're exploring sort of different avenues yourself. Have you thought about that? And, you know, how does this project kind of influence you in that way?
Oh, absolutely. Like I want to go on to direct and produce and write myself. And so Sarah like has become like one of the biggest role models for me. Like I really want her to be my mentor, because like just being a part of something and being able to watch a woman like with no sweat, like power through this and do it with such confidence, such like I don't know, it's just incredible. And it's so good. It's so well written, so well directed. So like she really killed it. And it's like, how do you not want to be like as a young girl, like looking at that, it's like, how do you not want to be that? That's exactly what we all want. And to 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 pave our way through this world and not let it be a man's world anymore. No offense to you,
Mm,
Charles. Um,
understood.
but yeah, like I think prior to I had already wanted to do these things of producing, writing, directing, and never and hadn't yet found the thing to push me to make the leap of faith and just start something. Like I had all these things sort of written down of things I would want to do or want to do later. And working with Sarah and seeing this process that she went through immediately made me go, well, why not now? So I am now in the process of producing three projects of my own, or two projects of my own, co-producing a third. And yeah, I hope to be like Sarah when I grow up. And yeah, I think that it's important for more young girls to more than just, of course, like listen to the podcast, because I think for women in general, it has some really good things in there that need to be heard. But listen to the podcast as well as look at who wrote, direct, and produced it. Like that's, you don't get to see that so often. It makes me want to cry. Like she really, yeah, she just really inspired me. Yeah.
I just wanted to say thank you. It's been such
Mhm.
a pleasure to hear from you. And I really like in this podcast in particular how it pushes too. As you had said, that there's a lot of moments in which you might expect it to go in one way and it goes another
Mhm.
way.
Mhm.
So I think that is something, again, that probably inspires you as well too, that you like those little
Absolutely.
moments.
Absolutely. Like that, yeah, that it there's twists, there's turns, there's yeah, like I've been listening to it with my family,
Mm,
and like my mom and stuff, and she's like, well, I'm just listening for you. I was like, no, mommy, you have to listen
mm,
to the story. It's like really good story. And it's like you never know. It's one of those stories that you can't see the end. You have no idea where you're going. Like you
mm,
think you know, like, and I'm sure everybody every episode they think they know where this is like headed, but oh, she just did such an awesome job of jumbling this in such a beautiful way that it's like when you get to the end, you're like, no way. Like, yeah, like and so it's like as so not only like just the simple fact of her being writer, producer, director, but like how freaking incredible it is. Like it's just this whole added extra, like the fact that like yeah, like I can't even put all of my words together. I love Sarah. She knows that, but I absolutely admire and adore and look up to this woman. Like she she definitely has a piece of my heart. Like, yeah, yeah.
I I still have a bit of a ways to go. I'm hooked myself, even more so, and I cannot wait to see where you go. You have so many exciting things ahead. Thank you very much.
Thank you so, so much, Charles. I appreciate you.